Sawadee-ka! Welcome to Hot Thai Kitchen. Today I'm very excited we got another childhood favorite on the show. So this dish is super classic. It's part of many Thai people's fond childhood memories because it's super popular amongst kids. It's easy to make. Like I used to eat this dish all the time at my elementary school cafeteria. So good. It is what we call kai palo. So kai is eggs. Palo is 5-spice stew. So it's basically hard-boiled eggs and pork belly and some tofu stewed together in this flavorful 5-spice broth. Today, I'm going to do it in my Instant Pot because it makes it a lot faster. It is the perfect kind of thing for an Instant Pot. But if you want to do it stovetop, basically the recipe doesn't change at all. So you can just follow along, no problem. All right, let's get started. So let's talk the 5 spices first. So the easiest way to do it is to just use 5-spice powder, which a lot of people do. I have a recipe if you can make it at home, but I prefer infusing whole spices in this recipe because the powder tends to like just set at the bottom, and then when you go to get that last bowl of soup, it's just full of like this muddy spice powder. So I prefer whole spices. So in here I have got cinnamon sticks, star anise, coriander seeds, Szechuan peppercorns, and cloves. And I have just toasted these over medium heat until they darken a little bit and become really, really aromatic. I toast all of them at the same time. Yes, I know they don't all take the same amount of time to toast, but I am too lazy to do them all individually. If you are not, go for it. Okay, so I have discovered that you can buy these things from the Asian grocery store. It's specifically for making soups and stuff. The package looks like this. So I'm just going to put these in. And I'm also going to put in some cilantro stems. If you have cilantro roots, use those. I don't. And then with this bag, you just flip it like this. And then it contains the spices inside so they don't leave. Like a little tea bag. Perfect. So I will finish this in my Instant Pot, but in the beginning I'm going to start at stovetop just because it is faster to do it this way. And also the Instant Pot is really hard for the camera to see because it's really deep. So I think it's better for you guys if I do this stovetop first, but you can start it all the way from the beginning using an Instant Pot on saute mode, okay? First thing I'm going to do is caramelize my palm sugar. So this is one of the keys to the flavor of this dish is the caramel flavor of palm sugar. So I'm going to turn this on. The Instant Pot, you want to do this on saute mode on high heat, and it will take quite a while. Another reason why I like to start on stovetop because I'm too impatient with the Instant Pot because it doesn't get as hot. And once it's melting, you want to keep stirring to evenly distribute the heat. And if you don't have palm sugar, brown sugar will work as well. It's starting to darken now, but for this dish, I want to push that a little bit more. Okay, that is a nice and intense caramel color. I'm going to now go in with my unsalted pork or chicken stock. Unsalted is very important. Woo! And by adding the stock, it will stop the sugar from caramelizing further. So you definitely want to have this on hand and ready to go. And the sugar will harden right away. Don't worry, that is normal. It will dissolve in time. Now you can just add the whole thing in, but since I'm transferring this to the Instant Pot, I'll just add that in later. So I have less things to carry around. Okay, the seasonings go in. A lot of different seasonings for a lot of good flavor. I got some soy sauce. As Adam says, all the brown sauces in your kitchen is going into this dish. I got some Golden Mountain sauce, which is a type of soy sauce. If you don't have it, you can just use more soy sauce. I do have a video all about the different types of soy sauces. I will link to that in the description below if you don't know what I'm talking about. Now, also I'm going to add some oyster sauce. I forgot to oil my bowl. If you oil your bowl, you're not going to have this issue I have. Okay, and then for an even more intense color, because this soup is supposed to be quite dark, some black soy sauce, or you can also do dark soy sauce. But the Thais have black soy sauce, which is very dark and not very salty. So it's a handy thing to have to adjust color of the dish. Now, in goes our spice bag. Push that down. And also I've got some crushed garlic, and the garlic I'm going to leave out of the bag because it's nice to eat chunks of stewed garlic. And then I've got some ground white pepper just for a little bit of pepperiness because it's adults eating this dish. You can do less if you're feeding this to children. Now I'm going to bring this to a boil before I transfer it to my Instant Pot because I think it heats faster on here. So this has come to a boil. I'm going to turn that off and transfer it into my Instant Pot now. Again, to be clear, if you're doing this stovetop, add all of your stock in the pot and bring it to a boil, okay? Don't do this half thing that I'm doing. I'm only doing this because I'm going to transfer, and it's easier to transfer a small amount of liquid. Okay, into the Instant Pot this goes. Now, the remaining stock goes in. And, almost forgot, I'm going to add just a little bit of salt. You can do all soy sauce and all that stuff, but I feel like I've got enough soy flavor in there, but it still needs a little bit more salt, so I'm going to do salt instead. Okay, so now, the meat in this recipe is pork belly. So I've got some pork belly here, and I made sure I pick ones that are leaner than others. So I'm like one of those Asian aunties at the Asian grocery store picking through all the packages of pork belly to make sure I get one without too much fat, because I prefer a leaner one for this. And you just cut it into pretty large chunks because this will shrink down quite a bit. So you want to make it bigger than you want it to be at the end. Pre-baby, what I would have done is I would have seared these pieces of pork until they're nice and brown and develop extra flavor. But now that I have a 6-month-old at home, I barely have time to cook, let alone develop extra flavor, so I'm just gonna throw these in. If you are not with baby and you have time, I highly recommend you sear your pork first. And I will include details of how to do that in the written recipe. And in this recipe, you can do more eggs, less pork, more pork, less eggs, whatever you want, whatever you prefer. Now, if you're doing this stovetop, at this point, you're just gonna let it simmer for about 2 hours, maybe 2.5, depending on the size of your pork, until the pork is fork tender, okay? And also, if you're doing the stovetop, you're gonna need more stock than if you were to do it Instant Pot. I'll include all the details in the written recipe because with an Instant Pot, you don't lose any liquid to evaporation, so we can start with less stock. With the Instant Pot, you're gonna cook this on high pressure, 20 minutes, and let it natural release for at least 15 minutes before relieving the rest of the pressure. Okay, so this has finished a while ago. The pressure is gone, so now, just to be sure, I'm just gonna click pressure release so there are no surprises. I just love how it gives you this celebratory music every time you open it, like, ta-da, congratulations. Ugh, look at that. It smells so good. So good. Now, what the important thing here is you make sure that your pork is fork tender. So I'm gonna just poke it with I know that's not a fork, but just give me a break. Just poke it with a fork and make sure it goes right through. That's beautiful. While this was cooking, what you should be doing is boil some eggs, because after all, this is kai palo, and kai means egg. So I've got here some eggs that I boiled for 8 minutes. So inside is still a little bit under because I'm going to finish simmering it in here. So it'll become hard boiled in the broth here. So in they go. And in the Instant Pot, I'll just simmer them on saute mode for about 8 minutes. Now I have to say that traditionally these eggs are simmered for like half an hour. So they become like completely overcooked, but that's sort of like how people expect them to be. Like the whites are really hard and rubbery and the egg yolk is all like gray on the inside. You can do that if you want, but I prefer to not overcook my eggs. So I only do this stage for about 8 minutes and then I let it sit in the soup to absorb the flavor without cooking. So I like to do this like a day in advance if possible. But that's how I come to like a compromise between having not overcooked eggs, but the eggs have enough time to sit and absorb all the flavor. Now, one more thing I'm gonna add to here is tofu puff. So if you've never worked with tofu puff, they are fried tofu with an incredibly spongy interior. They're like a soup sponge. It'll absorb all the soup, you chew on them, and it's just, so much soup just gushes in your mouth. It's delicious. Comes in a package like this. You can find it at any Asian grocery store by where you would buy the tofu. And I've just cut these in half or quarters just so that they absorb the flavor even better. So some of these are in half, some of these are in quarters because I got lazy and I was like, forget it, we'll just do halves. Okay, so now this just has to simmer for about 8 more minutes and then we're done. How easy is that? That smells so good and it's done. And by the way, I almost forgot to remind you that the spice bag can go now. Don't eat that. Okay. So ideally, you would let this sit at the very least 30 minutes before serving because that way you allow for the flavors to mingle, especially the eggs. But for the purpose of the show, I'm just going to show you. I like to do this day before I serve it because the bonus of that also is the fat. Once you put it in the fridge, the excess pork fat will solidify on top and then you can remove it. I chose some pretty lean pork belly, so I'm not getting too much of the fat on top of the soup, but sometimes if your pork is really fatty, there's just too much. So if that happens to you, just skim it, or if you're going to serve it tomorrow, it'll solidify in the fridge. Let's do one more egg. Let's eat. Definitely want to have this with rice. Oh, I also forgot to tell you, taste it first. The seasoning that I give you is pretty spot on, but you should always, always, always taste, especially when it comes to soup. If it's a little under seasoned, add a little more salt or more soy sauce, whatever you want. Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect. Okay, let's have it with rice. And you want to like get lots of sauce. See, if you let the eggs sit longer, they'll darken even more. So we're rushing it here, so it's a little light. Let's take a look inside the egg. Perfect. This is what I was looking for. The egg is fully cooked. You want it hard boiled, but we're not getting any of that gray ring around the outside. That's the technique that is unique to my kai palo. If you go to eat kai palo in Thailand, you will not get this. Like you will get the gray ring and the egg whites will be a lot more rubbery. But that's okay. Just 2 different styles. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with this. It's just FYI. Some pork. I want the skin side because I like the skin. The smell of childhood. So delicious. Tofu puff. Just every time I have this, it's like childhood memories coming right back. It's like a staple in like school cafeterias because it's such a popular dish. So fragrant. The egg yolk sort of mixes with the sauce and becomes this creamy, delicious thing in your mouth. The pork belly with skin on, when it's braised, it's so tender and flavorful. And that tofu puff, gush, sauce in your mouth. It is just so good. A little bit of pepperiness from the white pepper, just enough, but it's still a very, very kid-friendly dish. So easy, as you can see. Just throw everything into the pot and let it go. Whether you do Instant Pot or regular pot, it is so doable. So I hope you give this a try. The recipe, as always, will be on hotthaikitchen.com. And when you make it, send me a photo on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And if you haven't subscribed to the show, make sure you do so you don't miss an episode. And click the bell icon as well, or you won't get a notification when I post a new video. Thank you as always for watching, and I will see you next time for your next delicious Thai meal. Let it go for about 2 hours until the fork is pork tender. Till your fork becomes as tender as your pork.
Which takes about 7 years.